More than any generation before, aesthetic is making purchasing decisions for Gen Z. Let's talk about it. Today we're talking about how aesthetics shape Gen Z's visual preferences and purchasing decisions, and why brands like you should be using aesthetics in your marketing. When you think of aesthetic, what do you think of? You think of a specific person who has a very specific style, either in what they wear or how they talk. That's all aesthetic, right? But more and more, aesthetic is becoming important in how you're marketing. So visual brand has always been important, but aesthetic is different. It's not a specific style or a specific look, but it's rather the overall vibe, the overall aesthetic of your brand. So most people associate aesthetic with a specific style, whether it's fashion or how someone carries themselves. That aesthetic is eking in more and more into branding and becoming more and more important for you as an entrepreneur to be utilizing as you're developing your marketing strategy. So we have visual branding or visual marketing, which is about using nice looking visuals in your brand. And that's super important. But the aesthetic is a all-encompassing visual identity. It's more about the style, the way you talk, the way you interact, the way you look, almost a theme. Like, what is the entire vibe, the entire theme of your brand? How are you connecting all of these things, all of the elements that make up your brand? How are you connecting them together to be able to reach your audience that more and more cares about aesthetic over specific content? You can have a worse product but a better aesthetic, and you're going to be able to reach Gen Z more than you would be able to in any other generation. If you want to reach Gen Z, you need to have a strong aesthetic. You could have a crappy product and a great aesthetic, and you would still be able to sell to Gen Z, to Gen Alpha. So before I get into the specifics and how you need to be utilizing it, I want to show an example. There's a new stock footage website called Dupe Photos. You can see the way you search through this is based on aesthetic. You don't search the specific item that is in the photo, although you can try. You are searching and narrowing things down based solely on the aesthetic. Are you looking for normcore or cozy or city girl vibes? City girl aesthetics. That's what you're narrowing it down by. You're not narrowing it down by a specific thing. It's by aesthetics. And this is becoming more and more popular. So aesthetic marketing, how can you be doing that? How can you be tying that in to your brand image in a way that resonates with the aesthetic values of your target audience? The first and most important piece is unity across the board. A study by Adobe showed that 38% of people will stop engaging with your website. 38% will stop engaging with your website if they find the content or layout unattractive, while an additional 75%, 3/4 of consumers say that they judge your credibility not based on what content is there, but based on the web design. So you need to have an aesthetic that reaches your target audience in the way they want to. See, your brand should be tailored. Your marketing should be tailored to be aesthetically pleasing to your audience. Identifying who your target audience is and identifying their aesthetic and what vibe and energy they have and they want, and then making sure that your aesthetic lines up with them and their values is so important. So what this is going to do is it's going to help your brand identity. Adding more consistent elements to your visual brand is never a bad thing. It's going to help unite your brand identity and help encourage people to be cult followers of you and of your brand, because not only do they love your products, but they love how your brand feels when they interact with it. They love the aesthetic. The second thing is it's going to increase engagement. If your website and social media layouts are attractive, users are going to spend more time interacting with you. It's that simple. And the third piece is it's going to show maturity and professionalism. Poor use of color schemes and fonts, empty space, unattractive images, things that don't all line up is the number one way for people to look at your brand and say, oh, they're just still figuring it out, or they don't have their shit together. It's a perfect way for people to look and say they don't know what they're doing. They don't have it all together. It's not if you should use aesthetics to help unite your brand. It's if you don't use aesthetics to unite your brand, you're going to lose full generations of audiences. And as we continue, aesthetics becomes more and more important, and not just to Gen Z, but to every generation. As you're marketing, if your aesthetics don't line up with your audience's aesthetic, it doesn't matter how good your product is, they're never going to buy in. If you want to read more and see more examples, check out our website at lifestyle.media. And until next time, this has been New Gen Marketing.